I knew something was off the second I got home from my sister's place in Portland, dragging my suitcase up the porch steps, running on fumes, just want to sink into my old couch with a mug of tea and maybe a stupid TV show, except my key wouldn't fit the lock. I tried it every which way, stared at it, like maybe I'd suddenly forgotten how locks worked, even checked if I grabbed the wrong key by mistake. Still nothing. My heart started pounding, and when I peeked through the window, I saw these cardboard boxes stacked inside the entryway that definitely hadn't been there on Friday. Somebody had been in my house. Somebody had changed my locks. I was fumbling for my phone to call 911 when my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, poked her head out of her garden, waving like this was a regular Tuesday. "Oh, honey, the HOA took care of that for you while you were gone." She called out, all cheerful, like having a bunch of strangers break into your home was as normal as borrowing a cup of sugar, that nice Karen lady. Said it was all approved and everything. I swear I just stared at her completely speechless, like maybe she was talking about some other house, the HOA. I wasn't even the HOA, my little yellow house. Sat a good 43 foot outside their jurisdiction. I triple-checked with the county before I bought it. Let me back up a sec. My name is Sarah, and if you ask anyone, they'd tell you I'm quiet, keep to myself, the kind of person who does her homework before making a big move. I'd bought this place exactly because it wasn't part of Willowbrook Estates HOA. I'd heard all the horror stories, crazy fees, lawn, police, nosy neighbors nitpicking your mailbox color. And I wanted no part of my house wasn't anything fancy. But it was mine in a bright yellow cottage with wildflowers out front, a red mailbox, and a garage where I could work on art commissions without anybody breathing down my neck. But then there was Karen Hendricks. She lived right across the street. And if you've ever met a self-appointed HOA enforcer, you know the type, early 50s, always put together, that smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes in the day. I moved and she acted like my house was a pox on her perfect street. It was older, built in 78. So it stood out from all the beige boxes the HOA loved. So much Karen treated every little difference like a personal attack. Wildflowers instead of the regulation shrubs, a red mailbox. And worst of all, the sunny yellow siding. She started slow, making pointed comments to neighbors, walking her little Pomeranian by twice a day, staring at my garden like it might suddenly fix itself. If she glared hard enough, she'd print out pages of HOA bylaws and slap them on my door. Even after I explained I wasn't in her jurisdiction, she never listened. "Pap work can be wrong," she'd say, waving her hand like she was swatting away a fly. The rules were the rules according to her, and she made it her business to remind me every week. It didn't stop at snarky comments. When I painted my door turquoise, Karen showed up at 7 a.m. with the covenant in hand, wagging her finger at my tone violation. When I ignored her, she started leaving notices about my trash cans or the car in my driveway or the non-approved landscaping. She even called code enforcement to claim I was running an illegal business out of my garage. The city inspector apologized, said he'd had 3 similar complaints, same caller, all bogus, but Karen just wouldn't quit. One afternoon, I saw her going door to door with a petition trying to rally the other HOA members against my blight on the neighborhood. Most people saw right through her, but a couple signed just to get her off their porch. And that's how, after 3 peaceful days out of town, I came home to find myself locked on my own house, my key useless, listening to Mrs. Peterson chirp about the HOA taking care of it. I don't even remember crossing the street to Karen's house, but there I was banging on her door, barely holding it together. She opened up in her perfect pink sweater, hair pulled so tight it looked painful. "What did you do to my house?" I demanded. She gave me that cold little smile, head tilted. "I simply arranged for the HOA to bring your property into compliance. The locks were changed for security purposes while the necessary repairs were being made." "What repairs?" I was shaky. "You can't just change someone's locks. The HOA has a right to make emergency repairs to maintain property values." She said, all smooth and smug. "And since you've ignored our notices for months, we had to take action, Karen, for the last time. I'm not in your HOA. You have no authority over my property." She actually laughed, a harsh, glass-breaking sound. "Oh, sweetie, you can't just opt out of community responsibilities. We're all in this together." That's when I called 911 right there on her porch. The police showed up. Officer Martinez, polite but skeptical, and by the time Karen produced a folder of official-looking papers, it was clear he saw this as a civil dispute. If there's a legitimate dispute about property boundaries or HOA authority, you'll need to resolve that in court. He told me apologetically. Karen stood there like she just won the neighborhood Olympics. That night, I sat in a cheap hotel room staring at the ceiling, feeling powerless and furious. Someone had invaded my safe space. But as the hours dragged on, helplessness hardened into determination. Karen had made a big mistake, and I was done playing nice. The next morning, I was at the county assessor's office before they unlocked the doors. I got every map, every deed, every survey I could lay my hands on. The surveyor who'd helped me buy the house came out with his gear to check the boundaries again. I gathered statements from neighbors, pulled footage from my security system. Turns out the cloud backup still worked, and found video of Karen directing the locksmith herself, Mrs. Peterson, Mrs. Chin, and Mr. Rodriguez all agreed to write statements about Karen's trespassing. Armed with all this, I called a law firm that specialized in property disputes. Attorney Patterson took one look at my evidence and said, "This isn't just trespassing, it's breaking and entering, harassment, and possibly fraud." She sent a legal demand letter to Karen, and the HOA restored my locks, returned anything taken, pay my expenses, and apologize or face criminal and civil charges. She even tipped off the local News Channel 7's Fighting Back segment. Love stories like this. When the story aired, blew up. Channel 7 showed the boundary maps, the video interviews with my neighbors, even the locksmith admitting he'd been told by Karen she had authority over my property. HOA enforcer breaks into wrong house. Made Karen a local celebrity for all the wrong reasons. Social media went wild. The HOA called an emergency meeting, apologized publicly, paid my legal fees and damages, and banned Karen from any enforcement activities permanently. But it didn't stop there. The DA decided to press criminal charges, breaking and entering, criminal trespass, harassment. The locksmith company pled out in exchange for testifying against Karen. Her defense tried to paint her as a well-meaning volunteer who made a mistake. But the evidence, videos, testimony, all of it was clear. During the trial, the prosecutor played the footage of Karen telling the locksmith, "Don't worry about permission, I have full authority." And the jury didn't buy a word of her story. Karen was convicted, put on probation, ordered to pay restitution, and banned from the HOA for 5 years. The most poetic part, 2 months. After all this, Mrs. Peterson called me giggling to say Karen's house was now covered in HOA violation notices. Turns out, while she'd been so busy policing my unsightly property, her own lawn had turned to weeds. Her fence needed painting, and her garbage cans had been out for days. The new HOA officer cited her for 7 violations and threatened fines or legal action. The busybody enforcer became the neighborhood's cautionary tale. But Karen's downfall didn't stop there. Her husband, fed up with the drama, filed for divorce. She started leaving nasty anonymous notes in people's mailboxes blaming me for ruining the neighborhood. When she violated the restraining order I'd gotten after the trial, the judge revoked her probation and sent her to jail for 60 days. Her house fell apart, lawn overgrown, paint peeling, fines piling up. Eventually, the HOA put a lien on her property for unpaid violations, and the bank foreclosed. The same locksmith company, Poetic Justice, Wright, changed the locks on her house. She stood on the sidewalk, watching strangers move and probably thinking how different things could have been if she'd just left me alone. The new owners, a sweet young family, fixed up the place, joining on block parties, didn't cause anybody trouble. Property values went up once Karen was gone. The HOA, stung by the fiasco, brought in new policies: no more one-person enforcement, clear checks on their power, and a compensation fund for anybody wronged by false violation notices. They found out Karen had issued over 200 bogus notices, half of them to people not even in the HOA. I got my house back, upgraded my security system, put up a sign saying private property not subject to HOA authority, and started living again. The board president even apologized in front of the whole neighborhood, and a bunch of folks came forward with their own Karen stories. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd harassed. We became more of a community after she left, sharing real concerns, helping each other out, finally free of one person's toxic grip. Standing in my wildflower garden, looking at my ridiculous turquoise door, I realized something. Sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to stand your ground and make them face real consequences. Karen learned the hard way that authority isn't a blank check, and other people's rights actually matter. She might have forgotten that, but trust me, the rest of us never will. So here's my question to you. What would you have done in my shoes? Where's the line between community standards and personal freedom? Share your thoughts below, because I have a feeling I'm not the only one who's been pushed too far by a Karen who just couldn't mind her own.